Welcome to this week's Bible Topics discussion. So, this is part 2 of Job 31, the husband of noble character. In part 1, we find that Job had covenant eyes, integrity, purity, and generosity. Let's continue the rest of chapter 31 in the book of Job to learn the remaining characteristics of a noble husband.
Job chapter 31, verses 24 and 25. If I have put my trust in gold, or said to pure gold, you are my security, if I have rejoiced over my great wealth, the fortune my hands had gained. Job knew that riches are fickle because they can change in a minute. He might have had a lot of riches at different points in his life, but his faith in God wasn't dependent upon God lavishing wealth upon him. When we have faith in God, we gain eternal life, the most priceless possession that is possible to have. Job was faithful.
Yes. Job chapter 31, verses 26 through 28. If I had regarded the sun in its radiance, or the moon moving in splendor, so that my heart was secretly enticed, and my hand offered them a kiss of homage, then these also would be sins to be judged. For I would have been unfaithful to God on high. Today we might laugh at the thought of worshiping celestial bodies, but in Job's day it was a common practice. Not as many people might worship creation now as compared to Job's day, but many people do still idolize Mother Earth. Job had right worship.
Job 31, verses 29 and 30. If I have rejoiced at my enemy's misfortune, or gloated over the trouble that came to him, I have not allowed my mouth to sin by invoking a curse against their life. We are not to kick a man when he's down. Instead, we're to do the opposite and to bless him. Job blessed others instead of gloating over their misfortunes.
Job chapter 31, verses 31 and 32. If those of my household have never said, who has not been filled with Job's meat? But no stranger had to spend the night in the street, for my door was always open to the traveler. I am sure Job was not simply hospitable, because that was his culture. I'm sure he was hospitable because he saw the value and importance of being welcoming and feeling welcomed. Job was hospitable.
Job chapter 31, verses 33 and 34. If I have concealed my sin as people do, by hiding my guilt in my heart, because I so feared the crowd and so dreaded the contempt of the clans, that I kept silent and would not go outside. With Job, what you saw is what you got. He didn't have skeletons in the closet. When you fear the Lord like he did, you have nothing else to be afraid of. Job was a what you saw was what you got person.
Yes. Job chapter 31, verses 35 through 37. Oh, that I had someone to hear me. I sign now my defense. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my accuser put his indictment in writing. Surely I would wear it on my shoulder. I would put it on like a crown. I would give him account of my every step. I would present it to him as to a ruler. Clearly Job was a God-fearer and God-believer. He cried out to God and longed for a response. Job knew that although he respected God, he didn't need to cower away from him in terror. He knew that because of his integrity, he could approach God confidently. He knew God wasn't going to condemn him. Job was prayerful.
Job chapter 31, verses 38 through 40. If my land cries out against me and all its furrows are wet with tears, if I have devoured its yield without payment, or broken the spirit of its tenants, then let briars come up instead of wheat, and stinkweed instead of barley. the words of Job are ended. These are Job's final words before God eventually answered him out of a storm. Interestingly, his conclusion is about how environmentally conscious he was. Job didn't bleed his land dry of its resources. He must have allowed his land to go fallow from time to time. It seems that Job rented his land out. He says here that he did so fairly. He didn't rip people off in the rents he demanded from them. Job had environmental stewardship. And to all of this, we can add that Job was righteous.
So we find that Job had covenant eyes, integrity, purity, generosity, was faithful, had right worship, blessed others, was hospitable, was what you saw is what you got, was prayerful, had environmental stewardship, and was righteous. Now we know what a husband of noble character should be like. Please like, comment, and share. Remember, if you have questions, be sure to ask. If any of you have a topic you would like for us to discuss, please let us know. See you next week. Be blessed.